I caught her red-handed, literally peeling my stickers off the mailbox with her fake French nails like she owned the whole block. That's right. Karen, the self-appointed queen of our HOA, stood in my front yard yanking off what she called those ugly little eyesores from my private property. She didn't even knock. She didn't ask permission. She didn't care. She just marched right up in her pastel pink jogging suit like she was on a mission to save the neighborhood from a crime scene. The most shocking part? Those stickers weren't some random mess I slapped up to annoy people. They were meaningful. Personal. They were there for a reason. But Karen didn't care about reasons. She cared about appearances. And that meant anything that didn't match her suburban dream home fantasy needed to be destroyed. I had just come back from a short grocery run, holding a bag of milk and snacks for my daughter when I saw her. I froze in my driveway, watching her peeling away one of the decals that had been on our mailbox for over a year. A simple sticker, white letters on a purple background, reading, "Be aware. Be kind. Hidden illness lives here." Nothing offensive. Nothing aggressive. Just a small piece of advocacy to raise awareness for the chronic autoimmune disorder my little girl battles every single day. I stood there for a second, not sure whether to laugh, scream, or record. Eventually, I chose calm. I walked over and asked, "Excuse me, Karen, what are you doing?" She didn't even flinch. Just casually tossed the half-peeled sticker to the ground and smiled like she was doing me a favor. "Oh, I'm just helping clean things up. These look terrible. They bring down the whole street." I couldn't believe it. "That's my property," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Those stickers are protected by a judge's order." She blinked. "Judge? Don't get dramatic. These aren't legal documents. They're just stickers. And the HOA has every right to maintain aesthetic standards." It was almost funny, how confidently wrong she was. She truly believed she had power over everything and everyone in the neighborhood. I wanted to yell right then and there, to pull out my phone and show her the court documents, the photos, the ruling from last spring. But I didn't. Because something inside me knew, if I played this smart, this could finally end the nonsense once and for all. You see, this wasn't Karen's first rodeo. She had a history of enforcing her made-up rules, especially when it came to things she considered tacky. A kid's chalk drawing on a sidewalk? Banned. A garden gnome someone put by their bushes? Reported. Halloween decorations before October 15th? Fined. She had fined one of our neighbors $300 for having a non-neutral curtain color visible from the street. It was pale blue. Pale blue. She didn't care what the actual HOA rules said. She made up her own and bullied people into following them. The worst part? Most folks just gave in. They didn't want to deal with her constant nagging and complaint letters. But not me. Not anymore. Not after everything we'd been through with our daughter's health, not after the court battle that had already drained our energy and wallets. This wasn't about a sticker. It was about control. And Karen? She needed to be reminded that she didn't have any. As she moved to the next sticker, this time on the gate post, I calmly stepped back and pulled out my phone, not to call the police, not yet, but to take a photo of her in action. Then I slowly backed away to let her finish. She peeled every single decal off like she was defusing a bomb, wiping her hands afterward with a tissue like they were covered in dirt. She didn't even notice the small black camera mounted discreetly under the porch light, silently recording every movement in crystal clear HD. Once she was done, she strutted back toward her house, completely unaware that she had just broken a legal order, and I had the proof. As I stood there, watching her disappear around the corner, I didn't feel angry anymore. I felt something far more powerful, confidence. Because now I had everything I needed to make sure this time, Karen couldn't wiggle her way out. This wasn't like her past passive-aggressive notes or vague threats. This was a direct violation. A real line crossed. A decision that would have consequences. And while she might have thought she was saving the neighborhood from visual clutter, she was really digging a hole so deep, not even her connections on the HOA board could pull her out. I picked up the crumpled stickers from the grass, dusted them off, and smiled. They could be reprinted. Replaced. What mattered more was that the damage she thought she was doing was, in fact, building the case I had been waiting for. Karen had declared war. But she had no idea I was already prepared for battle. What she didn't know was that this time, the law was on my side. And soon enough, everyone else would know too. 2 years before the sticker incident, our lives changed completely when my daughter, Lily, was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disorder. She was only 8 at the time, and we went from being a normal, playful family to living in and out of hospitals, juggling medications, and navigating a world of uncertainty. It was terrifying, overwhelming, and lonely. Most people didn't understand what we were going through. Lily looked healthy on the outside, but her condition was invisible: painful flare-ups, constant fatigue, and a weakened immune system that meant even a simple cold could land her in the ER. To help raise awareness and gently educate our community, we started placing small stickers around the house, on the mailbox, the gate, even the fence. They weren't flashy or political. Just peaceful reminders: hidden illness lives here, be aware. Be kind, and rare but real. To us, they were symbols of strength, reminders of compassion, and a quiet way to say, please don't judge what you can't see. At first, nobody seemed to mind. In fact, some neighbors actually stopped by and asked what the stickers were about. A few even donated to the rare disease research fund we supported. We were grateful, and for a while, it felt like things were okay. But then came Karen. She'd recently become the head of our HOA, elected, of course, because nobody else wanted the stress of the position. She was the kind of person who believed every blade of grass had to be exactly 2 inches tall and every house painted only in approved earth tones. When she saw the stickers, she didn't ask about their meaning. She didn't express concern for Lily. Instead, she left a typed note taped to our door that read, "The use of non-regulation signage on exterior property violates HOA Rule 4.6. Please remove immediately or face a $50 fine." No hello, no explanation. Just a cold, bureaucratic threat. I tried to reason with her. I explained Lily's illness, how the stickers helped us cope and spread awareness. I offered to reduce the number if it helped, or even change the design to something more neutral. But Karen wasn't interested in compromise. Her reply was as sharp as her eyeliner: rules are rules. If we make an exception for you, we'll have to make exceptions for everyone. What if someone wants to put up political signs or religious slogans? Then where do we draw the line? I was stunned. She had turned a message about kindness and compassion into some sort of slippery slope debate. Still, we refused to take them down. The fines started rolling in, $50, then $100, then $150. Every month we received another violation notice, along with passive-aggressive notes like, "Your front yard is becoming an eyesore," and "The HOA maintains high standards for the benefit of all residents." Eventually, we'd had enough. I contacted a lawyer. We pulled together medical records, photos, even letters from Lily's doctors explaining why the awareness campaign mattered. Our attorney filed a formal dispute against the HOA, claiming the fines violated federal protections related to free speech and disability awareness. We cited the Fair Housing Act, which requires HOAs to accommodate residents with disabilities, and the First Amendment's right to express peaceful messages on private property. Karen fought back, of course. She claimed the stickers were distracting, aesthetic violations, and damaging to neighborhood unity. She even tried to paint us as rule breakers who didn't respect the HOA's structure. The case went to court. It took months of back and forth, mediation, depositions, statements from both sides. During the hearing, I sat beside Lily as the judge reviewed the evidence. Karen sat with her arms crossed, glaring at us like we were criminals. But when the judge finally spoke, it was clear whose side the law was on. He said, "The stickers in question are not political nor commercial. They convey an important and protected message regarding medical awareness and are placed on the homeowner's private property. The HOA's attempt to suppress them violates the homeowner's right to free expression and fails to provide reasonable accommodation for a family dealing with a documented medical disability." The judgment was final. The fines were dismissed. The HOA was ordered to cease and desist any further action against us regarding the stickers. They were also warned not to interfere with medically protected expressions in the future. I thought that would be the end of it. I honestly believed that once the court had spoken, Karen would back down and move on. But clearly, she wasn't used to losing. From that day on, her behavior shifted from official complaints to subtle sabotage. We'd get mysterious lawn care violations even though our grass was perfect. A noise complaint was filed when we were out of town. We'd receive late-night knocks on the door with nobody standing outside. It was childish, but I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of reacting. I reminded myself what we were fighting for: Lily's comfort, her dignity, and the message that people dealing with hidden illnesses deserve support, not scrutiny. We kept the stickers up, proudly. They weren't just decorations, they were part of our family's journey. Every time I walked past them, I remembered the nights Lily cried from pain but smiled through it. I remembered the fear of not knowing if she'd make it to her next birthday. And I remembered the support we did receive, from friends, from doctors, and even from neighbors who saw past Karen's noise and offered quiet kindness. So when she came onto our property and peeled those stickers off with her own hands, she wasn't just disrespecting a court ruling. She was spitting on everything we'd been through. Everything we stood for. And that's what made this different from her usual pettiness. This wasn't just about paint colors or mailboxes. This was personal. She had knowingly crossed a legal and moral line. What she didn't know was that her actions had just reopened the same battle she thought she'd buried. But this time, I had more than a court ruling on my side. I had proof. I had patience. And soon, she'd have consequences. So when I saw Karen peeling off those stickers like they were price tags on clearance items, I didn't interrupt. I didn't scream. I didn't confront her. Not this time. Instead, I let her carry on with her little vandalism project, all while my hidden cameras, both the one discreetly tucked under the porch light and the second one angled from the driveway tree, captured every second of her smug destruction. This time, I wasn't reacting emotionally. I was thinking ahead. Because deep down, I knew Karen couldn't help herself. Her obsession with control would always override logic or legal consequence. She didn't realize she wasn't just pulling off adhesive, she was tearing up a court-protected statement. And now, I had her on camera violating a judge's order with that same fake smile she always wore when she thought she was above the rules. The moment she walked away, tossing the stickers into my flower bed like they were trash, I knew the time had come to stop playing defense. I picked up the torn pieces, brought them inside, and gently laid them on the kitchen table next to the court order copy I'd kept in a binder. Then I reviewed the footage. Every frame was crystal clear. Her voice, her face, her actions, it was all there. There was no room for excuses, no angle for denial. But I didn't send it to the HOA right away. No. I waited. Not because I was unsure of what to do, but because I wanted to do it exactly right. I reprinted the stickers that same day. Using the same font, the same colors, the same message. I placed them right back in the original spots, the mailbox, the gatepost, and the side fence. I didn't even use new positions. I wanted everything to look just as it did before, as if her tantrum hadn't made a dent in our resolve. I went back inside, poured myself a cup of coffee, and waited. I gave it 48 hours. Long enough for the neighborhood to settle back into its normal pace. Long enough for Karen to think she'd won some kind of silent battle. But then came the message that would light a firestorm under the entire HOA, a video upload to the private HOA Facebook group with the caption, "Guess who just violated a judge's order?" That was it. Simple. Undeniable. Attached below it was a screenshot of Karen, mid-peel, her lips pursed and eyes narrowed in classic HOA fury. The reaction was instant. Within 10 minutes, comments poured in. Some neighbors were shocked, others were quietly delighted. Karen had made more enemies than friends in her reign of enforcement terror, and now people had a chance to see her caught in her own trap. One neighbor wrote, "I knew she'd eventually go too far." Another added, "This isn't just petty, it's illegal." But the best one? "I hope she gets removed. She fined me $200 for putting my trash cans out 2 hours early." I didn't reply to any of them. I didn't need to. The video spoke louder than any argument I could make. An hour later, I received a message from the HOA board president requesting an emergency meeting to discuss recent events. I accepted, calmly sent in the court documents and a short summary of what happened, and let the machine do the rest. At the meeting, Karen tried to put on her usual charm act. She blamed me for baiting her. She claimed she didn't remember the court ruling. She said the stickers looked different and that she thought I had added new ones that weren't part of the legal decision. But the board didn't buy it. Especially not after I played the full video in front of everyone. There she was, saying it loud and clear, "These look terrible. I'm removing them." That was all it took. The board reviewed the footage, reviewed the judge's order, and came to a conclusion none of us expected to hear so quickly. Karen was in violation, not just of HOA guidelines, but of an actual legal order. Her actions put the HOA at risk of being held in contempt if they didn't act. The board voted unanimously. Karen was suspended from the board effective immediately, pending a further review. But that wasn't all. The HOA issued a formal letter of apology to our family, acknowledging their prior mishandling of the sticker issue and confirming their commitment to respecting court orders and federal disability laws. And Karen? She was personally fined $1,200 by the board to cover potential legal liability for her solo stunt, and ordered to issue a written apology to me and my family. She refused, of course, saying it was beneath her. So the board escalated it. They told her if she didn't comply, they'd pursue further disciplinary action, including stripping her of all HOA privileges. It was like watching a tower she'd built out of petty rules and fake authority come crumbling down around her. I didn't have to raise my voice or throw a tantrum. I just had to be patient. What made the moment even sweeter was what followed. The week after the video went viral in the HOA group, a few other neighbors started putting up their own awareness stickers. One house down the street added a sticker that said, "Support rare disease awareness." Another put up, "Not all disabilities are visible." It spread like a quiet little movement, a ripple of defiance against the toxic control Karen had tried to maintain. Even the grumpy old man 2 houses down, who hadn't said more than 5 words to me in 2 years, nodded at me while checking his mail and said, "Good on you. That woman's been out of control for years." It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming peace, setting boundaries, and proving that bullies, no matter how official they act, don't get the final word when you stand your ground with the truth. As for Karen, she now walks by my house like it's radioactive. No more notes. No more complaints. And definitely no more sticker peeling. Funny how quickly someone changes when they realize the neighborhood isn't afraid of them anymore. Karen didn't show her face for weeks after the fallout. The once ever-present patrol of the neighborhood who used to march around with her clipboard and iced coffee, inspecting lawns and scowling at porch decorations, suddenly disappeared. Her front lights were dimmed more often than not, and her usual 6 a.m. power walks, complete with obnoxious leggings and judgmental glares, vanished like they'd never happened. At first, I thought maybe she was just laying low, waiting for things to blow over like she had in the past. But this time was different. This time, she had been exposed, not just to the HOA board, but to the very neighbors she used to bully into silence. They had seen her for who she really was, someone who thought rules only applied when she enforced them, who treated other people's pain like it was inconvenient clutter. And once the mask slipped, there was no putting it back on. The woman who once wielded power like a sword now walked past my house with her eyes to the ground, avoiding even the slightest glance in our direction. Meanwhile, the stickers she tried so desperately to erase were back in their rightful places, brighter than ever. But this time, they weren't alone. In the days after the HOA meeting, more and more neighbors began adding their own stickers, messages, and signs of silent rebellion. One house down the street placed a handmade sign in their yard that read, "In this neighborhood, kindness is not optional." Another painted a small rock with the words, "Invisible illness is still illness," and set it near their mailbox. Even the retired couple at the cul-de-sac, people I barely knew, put up a ribbon on their fence to show support. It was quiet, subtle, but powerful. A community that had once been divided by fear and enforced perfectionism was slowly stitching itself together through shared values and mutual respect. All because one person decided enough was enough, and had the proof to hold the bully accountable. It felt good, yes. But it also felt necessary. Because for people like us, families with invisible battles, people with chronic conditions, caregivers stretched thin, there's nothing more infuriating than being told our struggles are a nuisance or ugly. What Karen did wasn't just about some stickers. It was about sending the message that our daughter's condition didn't belong. That raising awareness was somehow violating her sense of neighborhood order. That our voices didn't matter because they weren't part of her carefully controlled aesthetic. But the court disagreed. And so did our neighbors. And in that support, we found something that had been missing since Lily's diagnosis, a feeling of belonging. The letter of apology eventually arrived in our mailbox, folded neatly inside an HOA envelope. Karen's handwriting was stiff and impersonal, and the words were clearly chosen with care. And probably legal oversight, but they were there. She admitted to overstepping her bounds, acknowledged the legal protections in place, and apologized for causing distress to our family. No warmth. No sincerity. But I didn't need those things. I just needed the acknowledgement. I filed the letter in the same binder that held our court documents, right behind the judge's statement and the HOA's resolution. It felt like the last page in a long, frustrating chapter that was finally coming to a close. From then on, life slowly returned to something resembling normal. Lily started asking more questions about her illness, but now those conversations happened in a more supportive environment. She saw how the neighborhood responded. She saw that people cared. And most importantly, she saw that standing up for yourself, even when it's scary, can lead to real change. She even asked if she could design her own sticker, one with her favorite colors and a phrase she came up with. Some heroes wear capes. I wear courage. We printed it and put it right next to the original stickers. And this time, nobody dared touch it. We also started attending more HOA meetings, not because we wanted to get involved in neighborhood politics, but because we realized how important it is to have decent, grounded people present when decisions are made. I spoke at one meeting, just once, sharing our story in front of the board and the community. I wasn't angry. I wasn't dramatic. I was honest. I told them how it felt to be targeted for simply wanting to spread awareness. How it felt to watch someone tear down something that meant so much to your family. And how it felt to finally be heard. The room was quiet the entire time. When I finished, a few people clapped. One woman came up to me afterward and said, "Thank you. You made me feel brave." As for Karen, she remained a regular homeowner with no board authority, no clipboard, and no more power over other people's lives. Occasionally, she'd try to make small talk at the mailbox, but I kept things civil and brief. I didn't hold a grudge. I just had boundaries now. Boundaries backed by court rulings, community support, and self-respect. And that made all the difference. Looking back, it's wild to think how something as small as a sticker could cause so much chaos. But the truth is, it was never just about the sticker. It was about standing up to people who misuse authority. It was about protecting your voice when someone tries to silence it. And most of all, it was about showing my daughter that no one, no matter how loud, pushy, or petty, gets to decide what our story looks like. Today, those stickers are still there, sun-faded but strong. They tell a story of resilience, family, and quiet rebellion. And every time I walk past them, I remember the moment we took back our space, our voice, and our right to be seen, even when our struggle is invisible. Karen may have tried to peel them away, but what she didn't understand is that the message was never just stuck on the surface, it was rooted in who we are. And no amount of petty power tripping can take that away.